Hey everyone, welcome back. We love, diving into these complex topics, and today is no exception.
Absolutely.
They're talking about technology, but not just, the latest gadgets or apps or anything like that.
Right.
We're really trying to go deeper here, kind of looking at the nature of technology as a system.
Yeah.
And to help us with this, we're going to be looking at the work of Jacques Ellul.
Ellul, yeah, he was way ahead of his time writing back in the mid-20th century, long before the internet and smartphones and AI as we know it today. But
yeah.
His insights are even more relevant now than ever before, really.
It's almost eerie, like how much he predicted. We're looking at excerpts from his book, The Technological System, and it's a challenging read, I'm not going to lie.
It is.
That's why we're here, to try to bring it down.
Absolutely. Most of us, we think about technology as simply tools.
Right.
Just things we use to make our lives easier, to connect with others, to get things done. And that's true on a surface level. But Ellul's arguing that something much bigger is going on here, something much more fundamental.
Okay, so unpack that a little bit. What do you mean by technology as a system?
Yeah, so it's not like your laptop is secretly talking to your toaster or anything like that. But
Sure.
Think about it this way. You probably didn't choose for your fridge to connect to the internet or for your car to track your every move, right?
Right.
These individual gadgets, they're now part of something bigger, this web of interconnected technologies, all talking to each other, collecting data, shaping our choices in ways we might not even realize.
Okay.
That's what he means by technology as a system.
So it's like this invisible force field that's influencing our lives that's kind of cool, but also kind of creepy?
Exactly. And Ellul would argue that this system has its own internal logic, its own momentum. It's not just a collection of neutral tools. It has its own goals. And those goals may not always align with our own.
So it's almost like technology has a mind of its own, in a way.
He would argue that in many ways it does. He says technology has become a primary driver of change, impacting everything from politics and economics to our relationships and even our sense of self.
So it's not just that we're using technology, but technology is changing us.
Precisely. Think about the expansion of state power, for example, surveillance technologies, data collection. These things wouldn't be possible without this technological system that we've built.
It's like we're just along for the ride,
Yeah.
Like technology's this force that's just pushing us along.
It's a powerful image, and it gets at the heart of what Ellul's trying to convey, but it gets even more interesting here.
Okay.
Ellul argues that this technological system isn't just shaping like our external world, but also our inner world, our thoughts, our desires, even our values.
So it's not even just how we use technology, it's how technology changes us.
Exactly. Think about like the last time you saw an ad for, the latest smartphone or gadget.
Right.
You probably didn't need it, but suddenly you felt like, oh, I can't live without this thing.
Right.
Ellul would say that's the technological system at work, shaping our desires, creating these new needs that we never even knew we had.
Okay, so that's a little unsettling. I like to think that I make my own choices, that I'm not just a pawn in some big technological game.
Of course. I think we all want to believe that.
Yeah.
But his point is that these choices are often more influenced than we realize.
Okay.
And this brings us to one of his most, I think, challenging arguments. And that's this idea of technology's inherent autonomy.
Okay. Break that down for me. What does he mean by autonomy? Is he saying, like, our phones are going to rise up and overthrow us or something?
Not exactly, no. Although I'm sure that'd be a great, sci-fi movie.
Right.
What he means by autonomy is that technology has a way of kind of dictating its own development and application, and it often does this in ways that surpass our intentions, even our control. Think about it. Even when we try to set limits on technology, like we want to steer it in this direction, it often finds a way to circumvent those limits, to evolve in ways that we didn't anticipate.
So it's like technology has like its own internal compass, like it's guiding its own progress, whether we want it to or not.
Exactly. And this has huge implications for how we think about progress in general.
Yep.
We tend to view technological advancement as inherently positive.
Right.
Like it's always going to lead to a better future, But Ellul challenges that assumption.
So he's not saying that all technology is bad.
No, not at all. He acknowledges that technology has done a lot of good in the world, a lot of positive changes.
Yeah.
But he argues that we need to be more critical in our assessment of its impact. He talks about the acceleration dilemma, this idea that, the pace of technological development is increasing exponentially.
Right.
But are we really any better off?
So we're on this like runaway train and we're not even sure where it's going, but we're just assuming it's going to be better than where we are now.
Yeah. And to make matters even more complicated, he points out that it's very difficult to even predict where technology is going to go next.
Okay.
I mean, even experts in their fields, they get it wrong all the time.
So we can't just like rely on the tech gurus to tell us what the future is going to be like.
Right, exactly. We need to be engaged, We need to be critical thinkers and be asking these tough questions about the role of technology in our lives and in society as a whole.
So if we can't really control where it's going, I mean, what can we do? How do we even navigate this complex and constantly changing, I don't know, landscape?
That's the million-dollar question,
Yeah.
right? But thankfully, I think Ellul offers some guidance here.
Okay.
Some ways that we can become more conscious participants in shaping our technological future.
So where do we even go from here? I mean, if we're like on this technological roller coaster, can we actually steer or are we just along for the ride?
Well, Ellul would definitely say we have to steer.
Okay.
He says, the first step is really cultivating awareness.
Okay.
It's easy to get, swept up in the excitement of new gadgets and new advancements and all that. But
Right.
we need to kind of take a step back and say, okay, what are the trade-offs here? How is this technology actually changing our behavior, our relationships, our world?
It's like that old saying, right? Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
Because we can build, a self-driving car doesn't mean we really understand like what that means for, society or ethically, like what happens when humans aren't behind the wheel anymore.
Exactly. And that's where I think his emphasis on critical thinking comes in.
Okay.
We have to move beyond just sort of blindly accepting technology as progress and really start asking these tougher questions about, its purpose, its impact, and who is it actually benefiting?
So it's less about being afraid of technology. It's more about just approaching it like with a healthy amount of skepticism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And being willing to like really understand, the full impact of it.
Yeah.
And that means looking beyond just, the shiny marketing campaigns and everything.
Right.
And having these open and honest conversations, even about the potential downsides of technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even perhaps especially
Yeah.
when those downsides are kind of uncomfortable to really think about.
This reminds me, actually, there's a quote from earlier in the book that I thought was really interesting. He says something like, technology is not inherently good or evil. It's a mirror reflecting our own values and choices.
Yeah, that's a really powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, Ellul believed that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for, good or bad.
Right.
But the responsibility really lies with us, as individuals and as a society to decide how we want to use it. What kind of future do we actually want to create?
So it's not about, going back to like the Stone Age or anything.
No.
It's just about being more like mindful.
I think so, yeah.
More intentional about how we develop it and how we use it.
Exactly. It's about ensuring that technology serves us, not the other way around.
Right.
And that starts with, like I was saying, asking the tough questions, having those critical conversations, and really demanding more from the people and the institutions that are creating and controlling these really powerful technologies.
It's a good point. What you're saying about it not having inherent morality in it. Like, we're the ones that imbue that on it. And if we're not careful about it, then who knows what could happen, right?
Exactly.
His work, I think, is a good reminder that, we're not just passive bystanders in all of this.
Right.
We do have agency. We do have a voice. We have a responsibility to, like you said, to shape a future where it empowers us without taking away, what makes us human.
Well said. Well said. If there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from this whole deep dive, it's that.
Yeah.
Like you said, don't just accept, the technological landscape as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Question it, challenge it, and be an active participant in shaping the future that you want to see.
And on that note, we're actually going to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
If you could hit like the pause button on technological development just for a little bit, would you? And if you would, why? Like, what are those questions that we really need to be asking?
Yeah.
Or the conversations that we need to be having before we hit play again?
Those are the conversations that matter, I think.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the work of Jacques Ellul. Hopefully, it sparked some new ideas for you.
Absolutely.
And inspired you to think a little bit more critically about, the role of technology in your own life in our world. So
Absolutely.
until next time, keep asking those tough questions, right?
Yeah.
Keep diving deep.